The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does indeed specify a maximum height for overcurrent devices. According to the NEC, the highest point of any overcurrent device in a panel or enclosure cannot be more than 6 feet 7 inches above the floor or working platform. This requirement is in place to ensure accessibility for operation and maintenance. Specifically, it allows electricians and other qualified personnel to easily reach and operate the breakers or fuses without needing ladders or other equipment. Now, with regards to minimum height requirements, the NEC does not explicitly state a minimum height for overcurrent devices in general applications. The code primarily focuses on the maximum height to ensure accessibility. However, there are considerations that might indirectly influence the minimum height at which an overcurrent device is installed. Firstly, workspace requirements need to be considered. The NEC mandates adequate working space around electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance. The depth of the working space is specified in NEC Table 110.26 AON and depends on the voltage to ground and the condition of the installation. The width of the working space should be the width of the equipment, or 30 inches, whichever is greater, and the height of the working space shall not be less than 6 feet 6 inches. So, while there's no specific minimum height for the overcurrent device itself, the working space requirements might dictate a practical minimum height to ensure compliance. Secondly, environmental factors are essential. The location of the overcurrent device should be such that it is protected from physical damage and environmental conditions that could adversely affect its operation. For instance, installing a panel too close to the floor in a damp or wet location could lead to corrosion or other issues. In such cases, a minimum height might be necessary to keep the equipment safe and reliable. Thirdly, accessibility and obstruction play a vital role. The NEC requires that electrical equipment is installed in a manner that allows for easy access and operation. If an overcurrent device is installed too low to the ground or is obstructed by other equipment or structures, it could be considered a violation of the code. Therefore, a practical minimum height might be needed to ensure that the device is readily accessible and not obstructed. Fourthly, local amendments should also be considered. It is important to check with the local authorities or the authority having jurisdiction, also known as the AHJ, to see if there are any local amendments to the NEC that might specify a minimum height for overcurrent devices. Some jurisdictions might have specific requirements based on local conditions or practices. Fifthly, equipment listing and labeling instructions need to be followed. The listing and labeling instructions that come with the overcurrent device or panel might specify certain installation requirements, including minimum heights. It is important to follow these instructions to ensure that the equipment is installed correctly and safely. Although the NEC does not explicitly state a minimum height requirement for overcurrent devices, several factors influence the practical minimum height at which they should be installed. These factors include workspace requirements, environmental conditions, accessibility, local amendments, and equipment listing and labeling instructions. By considering these factors, installers can ensure that overcurrent devices are installed safely and in compliance with the NEC and other applicable codes and standards.